the best and worst thing to do when healing chronic pain and illness. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about something super important that I want everyone to understand who's on a mission to heal their chronic pain and chronic symptoms. We're going to dive into what's the best thing and worst thing to do while you're trying to heal. Now, as many of you know on my channel, I talk about neuroplastic pain and symptoms. Now, when we understand chronic pain, chronic illness, we've come to understand through research, through amazing work that's being done, that a lot of chronic pain and chronic symptoms are not due to damage or disease in the body, or not fully due to damage or disease in the body. They're actually neuroplastic in nature. And they're occurring because your brain, your nervous system is stuck in this heightened state of danger and survival. I want to explain that because when I dive into what are the best things to do and worst things to do when you're trying to heal your chronic pain and symptoms, we need to understand that most chronic pain and symptoms are occurring due to the level of danger in your brain and nervous system just being too high for too long. Now, what we're going to talk about first is the worst thing you can do while you're trying to heal. This is the number one killer of progress. I've helped so many people fully heal from their chronic pain, chronic symptoms. But when I see people really struggling, it's often because they're doing this absolute worst thing. Now, the worst thing while you're trying to heal is avoidance. When there is too much avoidance. Now, it makes sense when we have chronic pain, chronic illness, that our world gets smaller and smaller. Often what we try to do is we avoid more and more triggers. We avoid anything and everything that potentially could be worsening our chronic pain and chronic symptoms. When I had chronic pain, which I was able to recover from, my world got really small. And I want to be clear, you're not to blame for this. It makes sense when we have these really unpleasant sensations taking place. We want to avoid anything and everything that could be triggering it. So we make our world smaller and smaller and smaller. The problem is that a lot of times, as I've said, pain and symptoms are neuroplastic. And so all these triggers, such as movements, positions, time of day, days of the week, weather, smells, sounds, certain foods, they're not actually triggering something physical in your body. What's happened is your brain starts to label all these different triggers as dangerous, and then it clicks on pain and symptoms. It's almost a mistaken dissociation. But a lot of us, when we're first experiencing pain or symptoms, we don't understand that. So we avoid anything and everything in life that could be worsening it. Now, when we come to a brain and nervous system approach that I explain on my channel, which can reverse neuroplastic pain and symptoms, a lot of people start to use the strategies like brain retraining skills, nervous system regulation, but they keep their world really small, which it makes sense. It's terrifying. To start to expand your world, it's going to be bumpy, but when that avoidance is too strong and keeping your world too small, it keeps your brain thinking through your behaviors there's something really wrong with the body, and it just keeps firing off pain or physical symptoms. I did a recent video of how to go bedbound to fully moving. I break down 101 how you can start to reduce this behavioral avoidance that's taking place and start to live more fully use your body again. I'll put the link down below so you have access to that video. In that video, it comes from my digital course where we do a lot of strategies and practices to help people to go from this really small world, often bedbound, to fully being able to use their body. But that avoidance, it's the worst thing you can do. And we're talking about behavioral avoidance right now, like avoiding certain movements, positions, activities, or any other trigger. That behavioral avoidance is going to stall out your progress and prevent you from fully healing. Now, that's not the only type of avoidance that takes place. People also have avoidance of somatic sensations. And when I say somatic sensations, it's a variety. This could be your pain or physical symptoms. This could be certain emotions, or this could be your nervous system state. Like a lot of people avoid fight, flight, freeze, fawn, shutdown responses. And so, yes, there's behavioral avoidance where we're avoiding doing certain things in our life, but it's equally as bad and gonna really harm your progress if you're avoiding attending to these unpleasant sensations. That's why on my channel, I talk a lot about brain retraining for pain and symptoms, where you're going in, you're approaching and being with the sensation. And that's why I talk about, actually processing emotions, being with them, and processing dysregulation. So yes, there's the behavioral avoidance, but there's also the somatic avoidance where people are trying to basically live neck up and not drop into their body. We know, like, avoiding your emotions, your nervous system state, it actually creates more of a sense of danger. It creates more of a sense of danger and will increase negative or unpleasant emotions. I don't like to call them negative. There's no negative emotions, but it will increase unpleasant emotions and it will increase dysregulation. And that's going to worsen your pain and symptoms over time. So overall, avoidance is the number one killer of progress. It is the worst thing you can do while healing. Now, one thing I want to be so clear about here is that there is strategic avoidance. Sometimes if your pain, your symptoms, your emotional state, your nervous system state is just too intense, some strategic avoidance for short periods makes sense. Distracting yourself, having a warm bath, checking out somatically, focusing on watching a TV show, whatever it is that typically is going to lower your symptoms or make you feel safer. Strategic avoidance is okay, but we need to be strategic about it. If you're spending weeks on end avoiding through your behaviors or avoiding somatic sensations, it is going to harm your progress in healing chronic pain and symptoms. But small term, short strategic avoidance is okay. You have a pain or symptom flare, it makes sense that you're not focusing on the sensations and you're not trying to widen your world doing all these new things. That's okay. I want to be clear about that with people. Now, this leads us to what's the best thing you can do when you're healing your chronic pain and symptoms. And it's the opposite of the worst thing. So the worst thing's avoidance. The best thing you can do is approaching. And so when we talk about behavioral approaching, that's where that video of going bedbound to fully moving is going to be helpful, because I'm having people slowly but gradually approach doing more in their life, approach activities, approach certain foods, certain movements, starting to approach it, because this is a behavioral safety message to your brain. By approaching things that you once feared and using the somatic work to teach your brain that this is safe to do, that's how we heal. The only way out is through here, people. I want to be clear about that. I don't say that lightly. I was terrified. I was bedbound and I was terrified to increase and approach doing certain behaviors and living fully. But that's one of the big reasons I was able to become pain-free and live more fully. Now, it is bumpy, so watch that video, like I said, if you want a 101. And if you need extra support, I work one-on-one with clients, and other therapists at my clinic do as well. And we also have our digital course, so I'll put those links down below. But approaching is the best thing you can do. We have lots of fancy strategies. I explain lots of fancy strategies on this channel. The one thing they have in common across the board is there's exposure to approaching what's scary and unpleasant. And so behaviorally approaching things, widening your world, very key. Now there's also somatic approaching, somatically approaching pain or physical symptoms. If you don't want to know what I'm talking about, I'll put an embodiment practice for pain and symptoms down below. In that practice, it's a brain retraining. We're starting to drop into being with the pain and physical symptoms, being curious, being compassionate, and creating safety with it. We can't heal by just avoiding the sensations of pain or symptoms. We need to learn to teach our brain, hey, we're safe to be here. There's nothing wrong with our body. I can attend to this and create safety with it. Now, somatically approaching also includes for your emotions, for dysregulation. I'll put a few emotion practices and dysregulation practices down below. It's the same idea as approaching pain and symptoms. We need to approach emotions and approach dysregulation. One thing that happens when people come to a mind-body approach to healing their chronic pain and symptoms, they get the equation wrong. They think difficult emotions, dysregulation equals pain and symptoms. And if that's the equation you're living by, what people do is they then avoid. They start to feel difficult emotions, they start to feel dysregulation, and they do everything they can to avoid it, to make themselves always feel calm, always feel safe. That's not possible. As I've said, it's not that, and here's the correct equation, it's not that difficult emotions equals pain or symptoms. It's when you have difficult emotions, nervous system dysregulation, and you have resistance. You try to avoid it, that's going to equal it to pain or symptoms. You're a human being, even after you recover from your pain and symptoms, which I want for all of you, you're going to have difficult emotions, you're going to have dysregulation. That's part of being human. My goal isn't to make that go away. Sure, I want people to have more safety and calmness in their life. You're not always going to feel that way. The best thing you can do, as I'm saying, is you need to approach without resistance, without trying to avoid it. Approach the difficult emotions, dysregulation inside, and create safety with it as you get exposure. Those emotion practices that I'll put down below, that's what we're doing there. Things like fear, anger, fight, flight. It could be sadness, despair, shame, which is more like the freeze response. We need to teach our brain we're safe to attend to that. We can cultivate safety with it. Now, again, as I'm saying this, although the worst thing you can do long-term for your healing is avoidance, the best thing is approaching. It is sometimes a dance. Like if, say, you're having near panic, like real high anxiety, most of us can't drop into approaching that at that level, especially when we're first doing healing work. So some strategic avoidance is okay in the short run. But the strategic avoidance isn't going to be the thing that actually helps you heal. It's just biding us time while the anxiety comes down, or for example, the pain and symptoms come down, and then we can start approaching again. Over time, you're going to be able to approach a more wide range of unpleasant sensations. So an example of this is when I was first healing, I could attend to like a sliver of anxiety before I was overwhelmed. Now it's pretty rare I get really highly anxious, but the odd time when something happens in my life and I experience high anxiety, I can be in my body with it. I can drop in, I don't avoid it, and I feel quite safe with it through all the somatic work I've done. So as a summary of this video, worst thing you do is this prolonged avoidance to behaviors or somatic sensations. The best thing you can do is approaching behaviors, widening your world, and approaching somatic sensations. This is the cornerstone that is going to help you heal chronic pain and chronic symptoms. As I've said, if you need support, I do have a therapy practice with multiple therapists. We're able to work with people in Canada. I'll put the links down below. You can set up a free 20-minute consultation with one of us. And if you're not in Canada, I have a digital course that's available worldwide. I'll put that link down below. We lay it all out. We structure everything, help people go from full pain and symptoms to recovery. And there's lots of guidance we give in that program as well. So throughout this week, remember, some strategic avoidance is okay, but overall, we don't want prolonged avoidance. We want to approach behaviors and approach somatic sensations, slow but gradually and compassionately, but we need to approach. That's how we heal. So thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.